Okay, we're going to start in a few minutes, everybody. I want to welcome everybody that's joining in. If this is your first time, and this is the first time you hear me talk, you could type in the chat box, welcome. This is going to be an insightful night. So much knowledge in real estate I'm going to share with everybody here. And if you're a first-time investor or first-time knowing about real estate, I will tell you that I'm keeping this as simple as it is as if I was talking to a 65-year-old woman and telling her how you should invest in real estate. So that is the way I'm going to talk to everybody. It's not going to be complicated. It's going to be very simple. I believe that if you share something simple to anybody, it's the easiest way they will understand you, and it's the easiest way they'll won't have any questions. So I want you guys to be engaged, everybody to really chat on the chat box, and then ask questions as you're going to be hearing about this presentation. And it's going to be a 40 to 45 minute webinar, and it's going to be insightful and tell you just a snippet of what real estate is doing in today's market. So I'm excited, and we are in September. So we're only 3 months away from the end of the year. So I'm going to get going. So I welcome everybody to being here. If you could see everything on the screen, you could type on the chat box, I see everything, everything's fine to go. So I am going to tell you a little bit about who I am, and then I'm going to tell you about the real estate market, and then I'm going to tell you of some of the important things I have in mind that you could take away from tonight. And so that's the main thing I want to share with all of you. So today's discussion, I would like to share with you, if you're listening through the iPhone or a phone, that's perfectly fine. I am going to go through the discussion if you don't see the templates. We are also live streaming this on Facebook. If you don't know which on our page, you will see it on the chat box, our company page. We put all deals, we put properties that we're acquiring, selling, deals that we're looking at. We're going to be putting a lot of content out there to share with you how I'm structuring every deal, how I'm making this deal work for investors, for and real estate brokers to make deals work, and how I'm structuring so you could get insightful news and get more informed. So I'm going to go and share with you guys who I am, what kind of investments we are making, why invest in real estate, how to invest $1,000 in real estate, how much money do you need to invest in real estate, pros and cons in real estate, what could go wrong. One of the most popular questions I get often is, Jose, what could go wrong if I invest in this asset, in this investment opportunity? Be really direct with me. And if you know me already, I'm going to be very direct with you. You know, things are not made of steel. The pandemic was one season that we faced, and I didn't know it was coming. I didn't even put it on my underwriting. And how do I do that? And I'll tell you a few things that I learned through the pandemic, which is going to make the company more resistant for a pandemic. So, and at the end, we're going to ask you some questions, and you guys could participate and make sure you get a lot of it. I know there's a lot of real estate gurus out there, and one of the things that we're going to provide to you is real action, real deals that are live. Everything that we're doing is live. These are not old real estate. This is stuff being done right now. So, number one, I'm a real estate broker here in California. I'm sorry, I'm drinking water. I'm actually getting just off a cold. And I've been doing real estate for 22 years. I've been purchasing real estate for ever since I've been 18 years old. I purchased and sold 300 plus real estate properties worth a little bit over 60 million. and I have a degree in finance and economics. I speak at various real estate events, including the Harvard Club in Boston, where I get invited to speak at the entrepreneurship class to share what entrepreneurship is all about. It's a very interesting club, if you ask me. A lot of students would like to know how to get started. And if I could simplify that for you, it all begins with fear. Everybody could do real estate. Everybody could invest in real estate. And sometimes we ask ourselves, why not me? That is a question I always ask to all the young students when I go and share this. And I ask them to get a piece of paper in which I want you guys all to do the same thing. I want you guys tonight, get a piece of paper, write down your goals. You want to be a millionaire in January 2022? Or maybe you just want passive cash flow because you want to retire. And write it down and say, why haven't I done that? What is stopping me? Why haven't I put this money on this investment? Why didn't I do it? Maybe you're 40 years old, maybe you're 50 years old, and you say you were going to do it 10 years ago. The question is when. And as I'm diving deeper, I'm going to get in a personal level with you and share with you that when I started my company, I was working and I knew that there's an ends to a means, meaning wherever I'm working at, if I continue working at this hourly rate, and if I continue earning this, and if I stop, that is it for me. Meaning, how am I going to support my family? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to inherit something for my daughter or my children? That is why I started it. I was blessed to know that at an early age, and I did that immediately. A lot of consequences went into place, of which you're going to save because I'm going to help you to avoid those lessons I learned. If you want to learn those lessons, type in the chat box, yes, I would like to learn more. Yes, I want to know more. So what is real estate? Now, real estate is comprised literally of anything that is in the land, anything that is in the land, residential, commercial, industrial, land. I mean, real estate, if you ask me, or if you ask anybody, and if you ask them if they want to be investing in real estate, just go and do that on your phone. Talk to anybody and say, do you want to invest in real estate? 90% of the time they will say yes. And they're going to say, I don't know when to invest. This is why I want to talk to you about what is real estate. Residential, houses, duplexes, condos, townhouses. You know, I could go deeper on that. Commercial, we got offices, hotels, strip malls, medical buildings, warehouses, and industrial distribution, land, vacant land, ranches, and farms. I mean, you could just invest in anything you see out here. The question is, you want to ask yourself is, who do I invest with, and how do I gain interest on this, and how do I protect that? And we're going to go deeper in that. And when you start thinking about real estate, you start thinking, well, what are the pros? What are the cons? Off the bat, when you start investing in pros, it's passive income, meaning I could be right here in this webinar and my bank account is getting deposited money right now. I'm building wealth. I'm going to give you a distinction between wealth and rich. I want you guys to take away from this. Rich is making a lot of money monthly or yearly. That is rich. You are rich. You are making a lot of income compared to America, compared to the city where you're at, compared to the average statistic. Wealth is, this is where wealth you gain on owning and holding real estate. As an example, imagine you buy a building, you're cash flowing $10,000 a month, and you own it. And that building, you bought it for $5 million and it's worth $10 million. That is a wealth already of $5 million, or net worth, if I could say it, grossly. We'll dive into the deeper on another webinar. But when you hold wealth and you own it, banks, or when you sell it, you have already wealth. You could stop and you could own it. It's paying down the debt. If you own it and you get yourself hurt, or you just stop working, you have wealth. But now let's say you stop working and you have a high income job, you're rich, and you stop, you no longer have that. If that makes sense, type it makes sense. This needs to reflect on you, it needs to dive deeper. But let's go deeper. What's the consequence on this? If I did this, what's the consequence? It requires a lot of money up front, and there's a lot of maintenance cost, ongoing. Everything that's pretty, there's a negative behind it. But what about if I told you, combining these two distinction of buying real estate, if I could tell you, if this is going to be painless free, would you want to know more? If you want to know more, type I want to know more. Because if I could share you that it will be painless, why wouldn't I sign up? Why wouldn't I do it? I'm going to tell you, when you buy a house and you're investing in apartments. When I started my career, everybody, I started buying a lot of real estate, single family homes, duplexes. My first property, ironically, it was in the city of Macon, Georgia, Macon, Macon. If you want to Google where that is, if you want to get curious, Macon, Georgia. It is a small town with a population of 1,000 in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. It's in the outskirts. And I bought this property for $5,000. I paid it, and I felt I owned something. I'm on my way to be wealthy, if I could call it this way. But nobody told me. This is a guy that works along other real estate professionals. And this is how I learned that once the moment they don't pay, Jose, you lost, you're gone. And that's exactly what happened to me for 2 years. I bought a property for $5,000, paying taxes every year, paying insurance every year, but the tenants never paid $1 to me for 2 years. You're wondering, how did you hold it for 2 years? Because I got comfortable. I didn't have a debt. I didn't have any other cost. I was making a high income every year, if that makes sense. I was making enough money. I said I didn't need to. Then I started buying apartments. I bought a 4-plex, duplex, and I realized that if one tenant didn't pay, at least the other tenant would pay the rent. And that's when I started buying more apartments. Not to dive deeper on the money, on the details, on the financials here, but clearly I want to emphasize to you of how buying in apartments could create you wealth, a high income, and still own apartments. How do you invest in real estate? One of it is you become involved with a other operating person, and you spend and you know how to buy real estate. One of them is you buy a single family home, you fix it and you sell it. You know how those HGTV shows, you buy a house, you renovate it and you sell it. That's active investing. That means that you actively, with your time, you have to go and invest your energy and time, and you get X dollar, okay? Passive investing means where you put the money and you get a return on your own. An example are REITs, real estate investment insurance trust. Those are some companies that take your money and then you get a return. And I'll share with you what we do, very similar. And active investing means you using your time. If this is making sense to you, type it's making sense. Are you working right now and saying, I have 8 hours a day, I earn this much, and if I work like this for the rest of the year, this is my maximum income. This is it. This is my ceiling. This is my ceiling. With passive investing, there's no ceiling. One of the ways how a lot of people, and I have a few people that are investors already with me, is how do you invest in real estate with little money? There's no such thing as little money. What I consider little is when you have fear. But if you have no fear and say, I'm going to go in because it's a time to change, the money is no longer scared or small. How you do that is you partner with other investors, you get seller financing, you pull out cash from your properties, or you wholesale, which wholesale means, you buy a property, the contract, and the contract, you sell it to another investor. We'll be doing a webinar on wholesale before the end of the year. In house hacking, how do you do that? You get a property on the MLS with no money, and then you sell it to another investor, and you made profit without even putting a dollar. There's so many ways. And I'm going to be going through those webinars on that topic before end of the year as a commitment to everybody that subscribes and start investing on you. But how do you invest on that? You do that, and we're going to continue going here. One of the ways, if you have $1,000 in real estate, you could start investing in REITs, real estate investment trust, real estate crowdfunding, peer-to-peer. One example, I'm going to give you guys a tip. If you want to know a tip how to make money right away, just type in share, and I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell you exactly what you could do this moment right now with no real estate experience, no real estate license, no broker's license, just basically like A to A, you and I just met. If you have money right now sitting in your bank this moment, and before you do this, as a disclaimer, always do your due diligence, okay? I just got to share with you. Due diligence means always double check. You have, let's say you have $1,000 right this moment, and you call a real estate broker out there and you say, hey, my name is Joe. Check this out. I got $10,000. I would like to invest in your properties. What do you have? And they're going to tell you, I got this deal. Good. Well, I like to get $5,000 out of my $10,000. How do we make that happen? That's it. They will figure it out. That's it. They'll figure it out. You already made an investment. You're already going to get a return. You're not going to be doing it actively. It's passively. They're making the money work for you while you're still making your job. And when you get that money, I won't dive deeper, but I will show you in another webinar what you do with that money once you get it. What do you do? We're going to have a webinar next week, and I'm going to share you what you do with that money when you get it. What do you do? Do you just do it again? Maybe, but I'm going to tell you what you do with it again. You could invest in tax liens. I bought a property 12 years ago where the owner had a federal tax lien of $100,000. I paid that tax lien. I owned that home completely. That's it. There was nothing else, no questions asked. That property belonged to me because that tax lien overrides the house. If you know somebody that owes tax liens, I suggest you tell them to pay them. Otherwise, an investor like you is going to own that house. So, do I really need to own a house before I could invest? The answer is no. You could become an investor today. You could know how to invest today. You could do this right this moment thinking you don't have experience. And I'm going to tell you again why. Because you have to partner with people that know what they're doing. And if you don't know what they're doing, ask friends who knows a person that's investing right now. That's usually the way it works. Now, in the slide you see here, a lot of the topic you've seen a lot is real estate wholesaling, real estate mutual funds, all of these topics, real estate mutual funds, your local bank has that. And real estate mutual funds pay a return based on what the return is at that time. The same with real estate investment trust. Real estate investment trust is a pool of real estate properties, multiple real estate properties, and you invest on that pool, if that makes sense. That pool gives you a return and you get a return. It's called a diversified. Real estate wholesaling is you purchase and agree on a real estate contract, and that contract, you sell it to Jose. I'll give you an example. I'm going to buy Jose's house for, let's just say 100,000. And let's just make this exaggerated. And the house is worth $500,000. Then I find a friend over here, Josh, and I say, hey, Josh, here's a contract. Give me 20,000 for this contract. So he's going to pay me 20,000. And now he holds the 100,000 contract and he makes the whole profit. Why did I do that? I made 20,000 in maybe in a few minutes or an hour or in a day. That's the point. I made 20,000. Now imagine if you do that every day, 365 days out of the year. Would that make a difference in your life? Type yes if it's going to make a difference. Would that make a difference in your life? What would you do if you made that much money? Would you invest it and do something else? Would you blow it all and say start all over? Can you pay some bills? Can you make a difference in your children's school? How much money do I need to invest in real estate? You know, when I started investing in real estate, I had zero money, literally. I think I had 3 credit cards that I owed $700. And that was a lot for me already, $700 credit cards. Citibank, I always remember Citibank. I remember walking every Friday to the Citibank on Santa Clara Street in San Jose. I would go there with my backpack, I have to pay my credit card. And I always ask myself, when am I going to get out of this credit card debt? I was getting frustrated. I said, this needs to end. And so the question comes in, there's no little money. It just takes no fear. You could invest $500 in a property right this moment. The question is where and how. I already gave you a tip earlier. You call some real estate brokers and say, hey, I got $500. I got $1,000. Would this help you on your real estate deal? What's my return? I will promise you, they will give you a return that makes you more than the bank. Some of the pros that it gives you on real estate investments is passive income, growth potential, stability, predictability, increasing value. There's a few buildings that I own right now, and a building right now we're looking at that during COVID pandemic had zero effect. Zero. I'm telling you, zero. That property, in matter of fact, it's in Fresno, California. It's 29 units. We rarely get any calls. I mean, it's like a ghost property. We just have it on the screen. They just send them rent money every 20th of the month, but we don't hear from them. Why? When I started with that property, when they would not call me, I started questioning. I said, maybe they're doing something wrong. Maybe they're not doing their job or something's funny. And until I started going to the property, I saw everything so pretty, clean. Tenants always smiling at me saying, you know, welcome. Mailbox is really sharp, no graffiti. I started realizing one thing. It's all about location and the property management, which is another webinar. It's another talk I'm going to give to you. And this is going to help you more. And the last thing I'll share with you is just between the last 7 years, the debt from 1.6 million, now it's 1.4 million. Why? Because all the rents is paying the debt. All you need is one property. And if you could own it for 30 years and you own it free and clear, your family, your legacy, your family's wealth will be complete. If this is wow factor to you, type in wow. This is like the major key that you could take. If you invest in one and you buy it and you pay it off in 30 years, you're done. That is it. There's a scam going on, if I could tell you, with the school system. A lot of students owe debt for a long time. Not good debt. I'm talking bad debt. Debt that is federally owned. How is your investment secure? How is it? You get certificates, cash flow, property insurance, title insurance. There's much more on that, but it really, the investment goes into legal documents, ownership, limited partnership, and it also, depending on the investment, there's deed of trust and promissory notes. When you participate in investments, you get quarterly distributions. Some investors get monthly, but quarterly, some even annually. It depends the property. Depending on the real estate deal, you could even get more money when you resell it. I'll give you an example. Let's say on that Fresno deal, you come in, you buy it with a partner. It's not making any cash, but then you sell it in 3 years and you make them, let's just say hypothetically, $1 million. And it's you and Joe, and just hypothetically, again, 50 and 50. So it's $500,000 each other. Depreciation. You also get the depreciation on your tax returns. So when you do that, that's going to help you a lot. Now, this is a question every investor has always asked me. And I need you to always ask that question to every person you put money. It does not matter. Because if that operator, like I'm an operator, if they cannot answer that immediately, there's a problem. That means they didn't think of what could go wrong. One is you can't lease up. Let's say you buy that apartment and it's just not leasing up. You're not getting any rents. There's a problem. What's going on? That means that management is not doing their work. The operator is not doing their work. Tenants don't pay the rent. Not enough cash flow to pay the expenses. Bad management. If I could give you a summary of what key element that could really affect you is bad management. Bad management, if you don't hire the right management, it could go all belly up. That bad management, you gotta assume is their partner, a partner that's with you that looks at the property in the ground level. If you don't have a good management company, that could really destroy it, your whole investment. Now, I'm going to do a webinar on how to identify 5 key elements that tell you how to identify a good to bad management. If you like to be a part of that, type in yes, I'd like to be part of that, because this is going to help you. How do I differentiate from this management company to this other one? And how is that one performing on this property versus mine? Why is that one better than mine? What is he doing that is better than mine? You'll be amazed. Now, as I'm getting this a little closer to the wrap-up session, I hope you're learning a lot and sharing more. And I'm going to give you a little bit of words of wisdom from my years of experiences. How do you get involved? How do you participate? And one of them is the accredited investor form. If you don't know what that is, my office will email it to you. This accredited investor form allows me and our office to really share with you investments that are happening all the time, investments that are going on this moment, investments that we're looking at, participate, and we could legally now tell you returns. At this point, because of the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, they really overlook us and make sure we're just not out there blabbering or opening our mouths and giving returns like if we were a bank. We have to protect and make sure that's not happening. If you like that form, just type in the chat box, send me form, and we will make sure to send it to you. I want to open up the mic for anybody that has questions and answers. If you have any questions, if you learn, if you got something, if you feel this is going to give you wisdom and knowledge for your next investment or due diligence, if this is going to help you to know more about real estate. This is our management team, and this is our information. We always will share it with you. If you're part of our emailing list, we will share it with you. And most importantly, we want to thank you for joining our webinar. But now we are turning the mic over to you. If you have any questions that you would like us to go over, we're here. And I'm going to continue talking unless somebody asks a question so that I could make sure that all of you is on the same page, and that would make sense. So I know, remember I was telling you guys when the pandemic would happen and how one property performed. I did have a property that did not perform. It was a nightmare. I had a property that went really well, and then there was a property that did not go well. It did not go well. This was in Oakland, California. If you guys never heard of this word called Black Lives Matter, I will tell you, it affected my property. My property was for low income people, and the low income people, with all respect, I grew up in that type of foundation. They felt that the tenants were not supposed to pay rent any longer. They just said we're not obligated, and we're not obligated to pay. In every news that would come out and say the government's going to help you, for government programs, that building, they just stopped. They stopped for 120 days. Did that affect? It did. But because I had a really good strategy on all the portfolio, we're talking about all the properties, multifamily, because they were all performing well, they lifted this property up and they paid the investors. It paid them both. Our company took a hit, but it kept everybody really on their toes. It paid everybody. Did I plan that? No. But did I know if this would go wrong, if the tenant didn't pay, what could go wrong, right? Didn't I tell you guys to ask the question, what could go wrong, right? And one of them is don't pay any rent. But after this pandemic, and this is my lesson learned in the pandemic, because I want you guys all to take this for wisdom. What did I learn? And I'm going to be going to our first conference to speak on this topic in October in Dallas. And this is what I'm going to share. I haven't shared it. And one of them is never make assumptions that you cannot get the answer for. If I make an assumption, for example, that I will lose 20% vacancy, always take an extra step and take it further. What would happen if this happened? What would happen if this property happened? Not just make a really generic assumption. What would happen if you couldn't pay an investor? How would you have it? What would happen if this building burned? And how would you have that property with the money and everything going on? How would you fix that? What would happen if you got in a lawsuit and somebody slipped and fall and you didn't have insurance? It keeps you on the edge and makes you checks and balances. Do you have your insurance in place? Do you have your management overlooking your property? Who is paying, who's not paying? Every lender for that period of time in COVID, I was have conference calls once a week because the banks wanted to monitor how I was performing because of a portfolio of 30 million. They wanted to make sure that Jose is not going to go under. And in fact, we bought 3 buildings during 2020. That was the difference that happened. A lot of lenders went out. A lot of lenders they said, we're not going to lend anymore. But some lenders who I discovered later, who have better terms, were the greatest, are using now. So let's move on to other topics. If you have any questions, please interrupt me. You're welcome. No harm, no feel. Please, I want to invite you to our next webinar that is going to happen next week on Thursday at 7 o'clock. If you want to participate, the link is on the chat box. Please register in advance. Typically, we're going to be doing these weekly. It's going to be dealing with investments. It's going to be dealing with structuring transactions. It's going to deal with returns. If we have your accredited investor form, if you're interested, we're going to have a very specific webinar for you guys, only because this is all about investments. This is all about, this investment is about this. This property is going to produce this. This property is going to buy and sold at this rate. This is what you get. This is what we're going to do. Our next business model that we are going to bring out to the market is called generational wealth. What about if I told you that you could still do what you're doing right now? You're working, you're in passive investing, you are active investing. And what about if I told you could invest in generational wealth, where you invest in a building and it's yours forever? That's it. You become an owner. And if you were to pass away, it goes to your siblings or whatnot, and it continues. And then what about if I told you that in 5 to 7 years, you get all your money back and you still own it? You still own it. You put 100 in, you got it all back in 5 years, and you still own it. Wouldn't that make a difference in your life? What would you do with that? If you're like 50 years old, you're thinking 55 is not too far off, but you made a huge difference in your career, your life. You said, hey, I worked for this years, this long. Now I own a building. When you go apply for a loan, they're going to say, hey, my name is Jeff Martinez. And they're going to say, write down all real estate you own. You know what you're going to write? You're going to write 123 Main Street that owns 100 units. They're going to give you so much credit. They're going to approve you. They're going to tell you, hey, you want more money? Hey, you want to buy a building? All that is the benefits you get. Those are benefits you get by owning that building. So I wanted just to finish up the webinar. I want to thank you all. If you learned something, type in the chat box, I learned. And if you didn't, there's always a next time on the next webinar. This is something that we used to do quite a lot, but now we're revamping with the team I have and everybody. We're going to be sharing so much with everybody as you keep going. If anybody has a question, just let me know. I think this is our first night going in. I want to welcome all of you guys for just coming in and knowing more about real estate. If anybody has a question afterwards, you know how to get a hold of me on an email or whatnot. Diksha, do you have any questions? I don't think you do, right? And if anybody wants to ask a question, the mic is yours. I hope you guys learned something, and we could go from there. Now, is real estate investing easier if you already own property? It is, but it isn't. It's still the same. It's still the same. Like you still got to evaluate the deal. You still got to look at the due diligence. But it gives you an extra edge because you already understand the concept. The other question is, if you can say I've got a question. Okay, so so that was the only question I saw. So basically, that's what you could do. And so don't let it be. Remember when we started this webinar, I want you to get a piece of paper and write down there your goals. And write down on one side the things you've done, and on the right side, write down the things you have not done. But on those things you have not done, ask yourself why. Why? Why have I not done this? Why have I not done this at this time? What's holding me back? And really open up yourself and ask yourself that question. Why have I not done that? And take it with you. Don't share it with me. Take it with you so that you could take this wherever you go, learn, or the next investment you're trying to go, guidance. That's the best thing you could do. So our next webinar is next Thursday, 7 o'clock, 7 days from now. We will be emailing the people that needed the accredited investor form, fill it out, send it back to us. We got a really cool investment coming up in September that's going to go out in end of September. And then we just send it to the people that already participated, and it fills really quickly. So that's the beauty. All right, so it's 7:44. I promised myself I would finish right at the time, 7:45. I want to thank each and one of you for taking your time of your family, your work, your free time to come listen about real estate. And we are, I believe, if not, I'm not correct, but Diksha, our office may send you a survey. If you see that, please fill it out. And also we may send you a Google review. If you could just write some words, that'd be nice. And that will help us as well for our company to provide this and bring relevance and bring identity that we are out there participating. So I want to tell you guys bye and a good night for tonight. And we will see next Thursday at 7 o'clock. And we could go from there. Thank you, Diksha. Yeah, we'll send that LinkedIn survey on Google review. Thank you all. Thank you, Diksha. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next Thursday.